Hey guys, welcome to Film World. Today I'm going to explain a romance drama film called Unfaithful from 2002. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie starts, and we see a family living in a small house. There are only 3 people in this family: a husband, his wife, and their son. The couple is Edward Sumner and Connie Sumner. They live in a fancy area in Westchester County, New York, with their young son, Charlie Sumner. They still seem truly in love even after 11 years of marriage. When we look at them, we can say that they are the main characters in this story. In the beginning, we see the morning scene where everyone is busy with their own tasks. Edward is getting ready to go to work while Connie is making breakfast. Edward owns a trucking company, and Connie does charity fundraising, which sometimes requires her to travel to New York City. After this, the scene changes, and we see Connie going to the market by train because she needs to do some shopping. When she arrives at the market, the weather is very bad, and as time goes by, the wind gets stronger. While shopping somewhere in the city, the wind pushes Connie into a stranger named Paul Martell, causing her to fall onto him. Paul is holding a lot of books, and Connie is holding decorations. When they bump into each other, everything falls from their hands. They start helping each other pick things up. Connie picks up the books, and Paul picks up the decorations. We see that Connie scraped her knee. She is in a lot of pain but needs to take a taxi and go home right away. Paul invites her to his apartment for a Band-Aid and a cup of tea. He tells her that his apartment is very close. Connie looks for a taxi, and Paul tries to stop one too, but they cannot find any. At first, Connie is unsure, but then she agrees to go with Paul. She follows him upstairs to his big apartment, which is full of books and art. Connie tells Paul there are so many books that he might be a writer. Paul says he is not. He is a book dealer. After this, she goes to the bathroom to cover her cuts. After cleaning them, she comes out and finds that Paul has made tea for her. She tells Paul his house is really beautiful. Paul explains that the house is not his. It is his friend's who lives in Paris. Paul explains that he is staying in the house because it is empty. She uses his phone to call her son. While she is on the phone, Paul puts ice on her leg and places his hand on hers. Connie tells her son she will be home a bit late and not to worry. After she hangs up, Paul takes the chance to introduce himself. Connie introduces herself as Constance and says she has to leave. He insists she takes one of his books as a gift and points her to a specific book, telling her to read page 23. The page talks about grabbing opportunities and says we should make the most of every chance we get, because that is what life is about. Connie feels uneasy and decides to leave the apartment. Paul tells her she can come back if she needs medical help or books. The story moves on, and the next scene shows Connie at home. After a while, her husband Edward arrives. When he sees Connie's injuries, he asks her what happened. She tells her husband about the accident and how a stranger helped her. Edward jokingly asks if the stranger was handsome. He suggests that since the stranger helped so much, they should send him a bottle of wine as a thank you. Later that night, Edward takes out his new camera to test it and takes pictures of his wife. He tells her how beautiful she still is after all these years. They are about to get close, but they are interrupted by their son outside the room. The next day, they follow their usual routine. Their son Charlie goes to school and Edward goes to work. Later, Connie takes out the book Paul gave her, and a card with his phone number falls out. She calls him to say her injury has healed and to thank him. Paul invites her over and flirts with her again when she arrives. He asks her to read Braille and holds her hand as an excuse. The scene then changes to Connie visiting Edward at his office with a sweater she bought for him as a gift. Edward tries it on, and it fits him perfectly. He thanks her with a hug. Later, after dinner, while Connie is doing the dishes, Edward notices that she seems to be lost in thought. The next day, after Edward goes to work, Connie decides to visit Paul again. They dance together, and Connie wonders how many girlfriends he's had and if he danced with them the same way. Paul says he's had 2 girlfriends and he's being honest. He also tells Connie her eyes are so beautiful that she should learn to sleep with her eyes open. Connie is confused by this and wonders what it means to sleep with your eyes open. Feeling uneasy, Connie thinks about leaving, and Paul thinks she will come back. He is right. After a while, Connie returns because she forgot her coat. Paul sweeps her off her feet, carries her to his room, and they have a passionate kiss. Connie is excited but also scared by what is happening. They both enjoy the thrill, and she uses her work as a reason to keep visiting him. Soon they are having a full-blown affair. One day, while they are outside having lunch and kissing, one of Edward's employees sees them. This is the same employee who saw Connie when she brought Edward a sweater. Later, one of Connie's college friends, Tracy, runs into her on her way to Paul. Tracy invites Connie to a cafe for coffee. Although Connie is hesitant, she agrees. She calls Paul to tell him she is at a nearby cafe. He comes over later, and they kiss in the cafe's restroom. After she goes back to the table, one of her friends notices that her button is undone. Her acquaintance mentions that she would sleep with Paul if he looked at her twice, which leads to a discussion about married women having affairs. Tracy comments that these short affairs often end badly, based on her own experience. She says it is the only thing she would change about her life if she could. Edward catches Connie lying about a family friend, which makes him suspicious. That night, he asks Connie if she still loves him. Soon after, he apologizes for asking such a silly question because he loves her so much he cannot even think of doubting her. Meanwhile, Connie is in the bathroom, removing a marker arrow that Paul drew on her belly while she was asleep in his apartment. Edward comes over and asks if he can join her in the tub. He turns off the light, and they talk and share a close moment in the tub. After meeting Paul, Connie has a new taste in music, and Edward asks the name of the song. When Edward asks her to stay in the tub, Connie makes an excuse and gets out. He notices her buying new lingerie and daydreaming, which makes him even more suspicious. When Edward suggests going to one of her favorite restaurants for lunch, Connie says she cannot because she has a salon appointment. Edward catches Connie in another lie after he calls the beauty salon and finds out there is no appointment under her name. When Edward fires one of his employees for being untrustworthy, the fired man, who has seen Paul and Connie together, tells Edward to check on his own family. Edward then hires a private detective and is heartbroken when the detective shows him photos of his wife and Paul together. The affair starts to affect her, and even though she feels guilty, she cannot bring herself to end it. One day, when she is late to pick up Charlie from school, her son finds her crying in the kitchen. He thinks she is crying because of Edward and tells her he will be back soon. Realizing she cannot keep up the affair anymore, she goes to see Paul. The next day, to end things face-to-face, Connie finds Paul with another woman heading to the library. She confronts them, and she and Paul argue in the elevator. She asks him how many other women he is seeing. Connie tells him she hates him, does not want to see him anymore, and that their affair is over. She pushes him out of her way and starts to leave. As she storms out of his apartment, Paul grabs her and forces himself on her one last time. They end up having another passionate moment in the hallway, and Connie seems to enjoy it. She leaves just in time to avoid Edward, who has arrived to confront Paul. Paul lets Edward into his apartment, and they talk about Connie. Edward is shocked to find a snow globe he had given Connie in the past, which Paul explains she had given to him. Edward is so shocked that he attacks Paul with the snow globe, hitting him so hard that he kills him instantly. He then wraps Paul's body in a carpet, cleans up everything he touched, and mops up all the blood from the floor. While cleaning, Edward hears Connie crying and finds a message she left for Paul, saying she is ending the affair because she is tired of lying and hurting her family. Edward deletes the message and puts Paul's body in the car, later dumping it in a landfill. Now, Connie senses something is off in their relationship. Detectives visit to investigate Paul's disappearance because they found Connie's name and address in his apartment. They explain that Paul's estranged wife has reported him missing. Connie is surprised to learn Paul had a wife and claims she barely knew him. A few days later, the detectives return to tell her that his body has been found. Edward and the detectives notice Connie is visibly upset by the news. She tries to hide that she knew Paul at all, but the cops notice the inconsistencies in her story. Edward surprises Connie by lying to the police to support her story. Later, when taking her husband's clothes to the dry cleaner, she finds photos of her and Paul together and realizes Edward knew about the affair. At a party, she notices the snow globe she gave to Paul is back in their collection. She shares a meaningful look with her husband. She realizes Edward might have killed Paul. She confronts him, but he blames her for what she did. He admits he wanted to kill her instead of Paul. In the following days, Connie finds a hidden section in the snow globe with a photo of her, Edward, and their baby son, along with a loving anniversary message. She looks at him with deep remorse. She later burns the photos of her and Paul while remembering their time together. Edward says he will turn himself in, but she objects, saying they will find a way to move on. For now, they seem to return to their normal life together. One night, on their way home from an event, Edward stops at a red light while Charlie sleeps in the back seat. Connie suggests they could leave the country and start new lives. Edward agrees, saying it sounds wonderful, and comforts her as she starts crying. As the camera zooms out, it shows that they have stopped near a police station and the movie ends here. To watch more explanations of these kinds of movies, click on the videos on your screen. And don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last, thanks for watching.